The more desperately you try to control your life, the more powerless you may actually feel. But there is one Stoic shift that can make you calmer, stronger, and almost impossible to shake. What if your biggest source of stress isn't your job, your relationships, your problems, or your future? What if it's the constant battle happening inside your mind because you trying to control things that were never yours to control? Benz, you can't control who stays, you can't control what people think, you can't control every outcome, but you can control something far more important: how you meet whatever happens next. Oh, and once you understand that distinction, your entire relationship with uncertainty begins to change. There is a strange moment in life when you realize that the thing exhausting you the most is not what is happening around you, but your desperate attempt to make everything happen differently. You replay conversations that are already over. You imagine problems that have not happened yet. You try to control what someone thinks about you, how someone treats you, whether a relationship works, whether people understand you, whether your plans succeed, and whether life follows the path you imagined. And slowly, without noticing it, you turn your own mind into a battlefield. You wake up thinking about what could go wrong. You spend the day trying to prevent disappointment. You check your phone because you need an answer. You reread a message because you're searching for a hidden meaning. You become frustrated when someone doesn't behave the way you expected. You feel anxious when your plans change. You become angry when someone doesn't appreciate your effort. And at the end of the day, you wonder why you're so tired when you haven't physically done anything extraordinary. The problem is not that you care. The problem is that you've started believing that caring means controlling. You think if you worry enough, you can prevent pain. If you explain yourself one more time, someone will finally understand. If you plan every detail, nothing will go wrong. If you become useful enough, someone will never leave. If you give enough, people will finally give back. If you monitor every possibility, you can somehow guarantee the outcome, but life doesn't work that way. There is a painful freedom hidden inside one simple realization. You cannot control everything you deeply care about. You cannot control whether someone loves you. You cannot control whether someone stays. You cannot control whether people misunderstand you. You cannot control the decisions of other people. You cannot control the past. You cannot control every setback, delay, rejection, criticism, betrayal, or unexpected change. And the more energy you spend fighting the realities, the less energy you have left to control the one thing that actually belongs to you, yourself. This is where Stoic philosophy becomes incredibly practical. Epictetus taught a distinction that can completely change the way you experience life. Some things are within our control, and some things are not. Your judgments, choices, actions, and responses belong to you. Other people's opinions, decisions, behavior, and reactions do not. That sounds simple until life tests it. Imagine you send someone a message and they don't respond. At first, it's just silence. Then your mind starts creating a story. Maybe they're angry. Maybe they don't care. Maybe you said something wrong. Maybe they are talking to someone else. Maybe the relationship is changing. Within minutes, you are no longer responding to reality. You're responding to a story your mind created about reality, and this is where unnecessary suffering begins. The phone hasn't changed, the situation hasn't changed. The only thing that changed was your interpretation. Ask yourself, how many times have you suffered emotionally over something that never actually happened? This doesn't mean you should become careless or indifferent. Stoicism is not about pretending you don't care. It is about learning to care without becoming controlled by what you cannot command. Mention there is a huge difference between responsibility and control. Responsibility says, I will do my part. Control says, everything must happen the way I want. Responsibility says, I will communicate honestly. Control says, they must understand me. Responsibility says, I will give my best. Control says, my effort must guarantee success. Responsibility gives you power. Control creates anxiety. Think about someone who is constantly trying to keep a relationship together. They analyze every change in tone. They worry about every delayed response. They constantly ask whether everything is okay. They try to become exactly what the other person wants. They sacrifice their boundaries because they are terrified of losing the relationship. From the outside, it may look like love, but sometimes it is fear wearing the clothes of love. The person isn't simply loving someone. They are trying to control the possibility of being abandoned, and the more they try to control it, the less peaceful they become. Now imagine approaching the same relationship differently. You communicate honestly. You treat the person with respect. You show affection. You keep your promises. You maintain your boundaries. You give the relationship, but you accept one uncomfortable fact. The other person's choices belong to them. That doesn't make you powerless. And it makes you free, because now your peace doesn't depend on someone else behaving perfectly. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly returned to the idea that your mind is yours to govern. He lived in a world filled with war, political pressure, betrayal, illness, uncertainty, and responsibilities that would overwhelm most people. Yet his philosophy was not about demanding that life become easier. It was about becoming better at meeting life as it is. That distinction matters. Pendia, you don't need a life where nothing goes wrong. Polengdia, you need a mind that doesn't collapse every time something goes wrong. Consider what happens when someone criticizes you. Then one person makes a rude comment, and suddenly your entire day is ruined. You replay their words while driving. You think of the perfect response hours later. You imagine confronting them. You tell yourself what you should have said. But why does a sentence spoken by another human being have the power to occupy your mind for 6 hours? Maybe the comment was unfair. Maybe it was deliberately cruel. Maybe the person was wrong. But even then, you still have a choice. You can examine the criticism and take whatever truth is useful. You can reject what is false. You can establish a boundary if necessary. And then you can let the rest go. That is emotional control, not weakness, not passivity, not allowing people to walk over you. Control, real strength, is not the ability to force other people to behave. Real strength is the ability to remain governed by your values when other people behave badly. Blamed, there will always be someone who doesn't understand you, someone who judges you, someone who talks behind your back, someone who doesn't appreciate what you did for them, someone who takes your kindness for granted. And if your peace requires universal approval, you have given your peace away. Seneca understood how much suffering comes from anticipating things that may never happen. The mind can manufacture pain before reality ever gives you a reason to feel it. You imagine rejection before you are rejected. You imagine failure before you fail. You imagine betrayal before anyone betrays you. Then does you live through the event twice, once in your imagination and once in reality. And sometimes the first version is worse. What if you stop doing that? What if, instead of asking, how can I make sure nothing goes wrong, you asked, if something goes wrong, who will I choose to be? That is a completely different mindset. The first question creates fear. The second creates strength. You don't need certainty to have confidence. You need trust in your ability to respond. Lenger, this is one of the deepest shifts you can make in your life. Stop building your confidence around predictable circumstances. Build it around your own character. If someone leaves, you will grieve, but you will continue. If a plan fails, you will learn and rebuild. If someone misunderstands you, you will clarify once and then release the need to convince them forever. If an opportunity disappears, you will search for another. If life changes your direction, you will adjust without abandoning yourself. And that is what inner stability looks like. Letting go of control doesn't mean you stop having goals. You can still work hard. You can still plan. You can still pursue success. You can still protect your relationships. You can still make decisions carefully. 10 But you stop demanding that reality obey your preferences. You prepare without obsessing. You act without clinging. And you love without possessing. You work without requiring immediate results. You speak without needing everyone to agree. You walk away without needing the other person to understand why. That is freedom. Think about how much mental energy becomes available when you stop trying to control what was never yours. You don't need to check whether everyone approves of you. You don't need to predict every possible problem. And you don't need to replay every conversation. You don't need to convince someone who has already decided to misunderstand you. You don't need to chase someone who is choosing distance. You don't need to make everyone happy. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to know exactly how your story will end before you take the next step. You only need to ask, what is mine to do right now? That question can become an anchor. When your mind starts racing about the future, return to what you can do today. When someone disappoints you, return to your response. When plans fall apart, return to your next action. When someone insults you, return to your character. When you're afraid of losing someone, return to the kind of person you want to be while they're still in your life. When you're worried about success, return to the work. When you're worried about the outcome, return to the process. This is how you slowly reclaim your mind. There is another reason letting go of control changes your life. It allows you to actually experience the present. Being a person obsessed with controlling the future cannot fully enjoy today. They're sitting at dinner, but thinking about tomorrow. They're with someone they love, but worrying about whether the relationship will last. They're achieving something they've worked for, but immediately worrying about what comes next. They finally reach the destination and discover that their mind has already moved somewhere else. Life becomes a series of moments you never fully inhabit. Stoic thinking pulls you back. This moment is real. This conversation is real. This opportunity is real. This breath is real. The future deserves preparation, but it does not deserve ownership of your present. And the past deserves reflection, but it does not deserve unlimited access to your peace. LBDE. There is a powerful kind of maturity that develops when you stop demanding explanations from life. Sometimes you won't know why someone treated you badly. Sometimes you won't understand why an opportunity disappeared. Sometimes you will do everything correctly and still fail. Sometimes you will love someone sincerely and they will still choose another path. Sometimes you will make a careful plan and life will destroy it in a single afternoon. Juice-stained. You can spend years asking, why did this happen to me? Mained. Or you can eventually ask a better question. Now that this has happened, what will I do with it? That question transforms pain into responsibility. It doesn't erase what happened, it changes what happens next. And this is where letting go becomes more than a productivity technique. It becomes a way of living. When you stop fighting reality long enough to learn from it. When you stop wasting energy trying to rewrite what cannot be rewritten. You stop chasing people who have already chosen distance. And you stop begging for validation from people who benefit from your insecurity. You stop treating uncertainty as an emergency. Clendia, you stop believing that every uncomfortable emotion requires immediate action. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is pause. Piangen, not because you have nothing to say. Tlayenda, because you refuse to let your emotions choose your behavior before your values have a chance to speak. Ping, that pause can save relationships, that pause can prevent embarrassing messages. Beamed, that pause can stop an argument from becoming a permanent wound. Doublend, that pause can keep one bad moment from becoming one bad decision. MG, the next time someone provokes you, don't immediately ask, how do I make them regret this? Benja ask, what response would make me respect myself tomorrow? The next time something doesn't go according to plan, don't ask, why is life doing this to me? Benja ask, what is still within my control? The next time you're afraid someone might leave, don't ask, how can I make them stay? Don't ask, how can I remain true to myself regardless of what they choose? Those questions create space between what happens and what you do, and inside that space is your freedom. Eventually, something remarkable begins to happen. You become calmer, not because people suddenly become better, not because life becomes predictable, not because disappointment disappears. 8. You become calmer because you no longer require the world to behave a certain way before you allow yourself to be at peace. Jumbuja, that is a profound kind of power. You can walk into uncertainty without needing guarantees. Melian, you can love without losing yourself. You can work towards success without becoming obsessed with the outcome. Bang, you can face criticism without immediately defending your ego. But, bro, you can accept rejection without turning it into a verdict on your worth. Pshend, you can experience failure without believing that you are a failure, and you can lose something without losing yourself. Pli, that is the kind of strength no external circumstance can easily take from you. Alenja, so let go of what you were never meant to control. Not your standards, not your discipline, not your responsibility, not your character. Let go of the demand that other people behave exactly as you want. Tembia, let go of the need to know every outcome. Shnd, let go of the fantasy that enough worrying can protect you from pain. Let go of the belief that peace comes when everything finally goes your way. Peace doesn't begin when life becomes controllable. Peace begins when you stop requiring it to be. Temd, if this message speaks to something you've been struggling with, take a moment today and identify one thing you've been trying desperately to control that was never truly yours. Maybe it's another person's opinion. Maybe it's the future of a relationship. Maybe it's an outcome at work. Maybe it's something from your past. Then ask yourself what part of that situation actually belongs to you. Find that part and give it your full attention. Let the rest breathe. And if you want more lessons like this on emotional control, discipline, self-respect, and the practical wisdom of Stoicism, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Daily Stoic Dose. Every lesson is an opportunity to become a little harder to manipulate, a little calmer under pressure, and a little more capable of governing your own mind. Planned because your life does not become peaceful when you control everything around you. Damned if it becomes peaceful when you stop needing to. You cannot command the wind, you cannot control the opinions of strangers. MDN, you cannot force another person's heart. You cannot rewrite yesterday. You cannot guarantee tomorrow. LADIN, but you can choose your response, you can choose your standards, you can choose your attention, and you can choose your actions. You can choose the person you become when life refuses to cooperate. And perhaps that is the greatest freedom you will ever discover, not getting everything you want, but reaching a point where you no longer need everything to go your way in order to remain whole. Dane, let life move, let people choose, let uncertainty exist. Bend, do your part with courage, accept what is beyond you, and keep your mind your own. Sheen, that is how you stop fighting life, and that is how life finally begins to feel lighter,